City car. It does what it says on the tin. It's designed to be used in a city or in a town, and it's also designed to be cheap to buy, cheap to run, easy to drive and easy to park. However, what Ford seems to think we really need is a city car inspired by the world of SUVs. Say hello to the new Ford Ka Plus Active. Is it a marketing masterstroke or is it a manufacturing mistake? I've spent a week with it to find out.
On first appearance, it appears to be business as usual. The Ka Plus looks small and compact like a city car should, but look closely and you'll notice the active version sits higher up and it has plastic cladding for better protection. This to me seems like overkill considering the most extreme conditions this will face will likely be a slightly muddy car park like the one you see here. SUV inspiration aside, I rather like the design, although a fair few of my social media followers think it's downright minging. Maybe the colour doesn't help. This is the optional Canyon Ridge paintwork, which didn't bowl me over when I saw it in the flesh, however, my mind changed once I saw it in the winter sunlight. As standard, you get 15-inch alloys, silver roof rails, privacy glass and dark headlight surrounds, which makes the car look like it's got a bit too much mascara on.
On the inside, you've got what Ford calls the Sienna Hazel trim environment. No, I'm not kidding, that is literally what they've called it. Marketing mumbo jumbo aside, what it basically means is you get bronze detailing on the door cards, bronze stitching on the leather steering wheel and on the fabric seats, and you also get these bronze stripes on the seat design as well, and I think it is quite a nice place to be. You've also got more technology compared to the old Ford Ka Plus. So as standard, I've got a 6.5-inch touchscreen, which has DAB radio and Bluetooth. You don't get navigation, however, you can link your smartphone to the touchscreen and use either Google Maps or Waze. So that is very handy indeed.
What's also handy are the rubber floor mats, which come as standard, helping to give the inside a bit of rugged durability.
Now, as you would expect for a car of this price, there is plenty of hard, scratchy plastics, but this is a cheap car, therefore you can't really complain. The dials are easy enough to read, the aircon dials are easy to use. Okay, they feel a little bit cheap, but like I say, this car is built to a price. Overall, the inside of the Ka Plus is quite a nice place to be.
The Ka Plus Active starts from £13,445 and it sits at the top of the Ka Plus range. As well as the 6.5-inch touchscreen, it offers 15-inch alloys, privacy glass, active styling, cruise control, leather steering wheel, speed limiter, hill start assist and front electric windows. Yes, that's right, you get keep fit windows in the rear. If you don't quite fancy the Active, then you can either have the base model Studio, which starts from £11,295, or the Z-Tech, which starts from £12,295. The former offers front electric windows, DAB radio, 15-inch steel wheels and speed limiter, whilst the latter adds cruise control, leather steering wheel, 6.5-inch infotainment system and 15-inch alloy wheels. The car tested here is £14,545 because it has the optional paint as well as the City Pack. This gives me rear parking sensors, rear electric windows and power heated foldable door mirrors. This looks to be decent value, but a Kia Picanto X-Line offers a similar spec at a better price, plus it's a Kia, so you get a 7-year warranty as standard.
The new Ford Ka Plus has a choice of 3 engines. You can either have a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder naturally aspirated petrol unit, which comes in either 70 horsepower or 85 horsepower, or you can have a 1.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder diesel, which offers 95 horsepower. The engine I have is the 1.2 litre naturally aspirated petrol unit with a whopping 85 horsepower. It also has 115 Newton meters of torque, but to be honest, this car wasn't designed for speed, was it? But let's talk about performance stats all the same. So this power is mated to a 5-speed manual gearbox, and power is fed to the front wheels. Now in regards to 0 to 62 times, I imagine a lot of you watching aren't too bothered, but in case you are interested, this car will hit 62 miles per hour eventually in almost 14 seconds. Ouch. 13.5 to be more specific, and the top speed is a dizzying 105 miles per hour. Now those are just numbers. How does the engine actually perform in the real world? Well, to be honest, it isn't too bad. Now it is naturally aspirated, therefore it does need to be worked hard to make progress, but because this engine has got twin variable camshaft timing as opposed to the old 1.2 litre Duratec which didn't, this engine has got 10% more low end torque. It is also a little bit more fuel efficient and a little more refined. And although the difference isn't quite night and day, I can feel this car is a little bit more eager than the Car Plus I drove 1 or 2 years back, which had the old 1.2 litre engine in it. Because it is a 3-cylinder, you get a nice thrum as you go along, which I quite like. When you're cruising, it works away very quietly, and when you rev it, thankfully, it's not too boomy. I think it makes a pretty decent noise actually. As well as new engines, I've also got a new 5-speed manual gearbox to play with. Ford states that it offers less friction than before thanks to internal components which have been coated with Teflon. And does it feel better than the previous gearbox? In all honesty, not much. I'd have to drive this car and the old Car Plus back to back, but I really can't feel any difference. The changes are precise enough, but they are a little bit notchy, and the changes, it does feel a little bit rubbery in my opinion. So it's an okay gearbox, but it isn't fantastic. Now, in case you are wondering, you can't have an automatic gearbox, so if you are after a car like this which can offer an auto, you would need to have a look at the Kia Picanto X-Line, or you can have a look at the Suzuki Ignis. The clutch pedal has got quite a nice weight to it, it's quite easy to find biting point, and in general this car is pretty easy going and easy to drive. Now you may find it a little bit tricky to get a comfortable driving position because the steering wheel only adjusts for rake, but that is not uncommon in this class, to be honest. Unlike the Fiesta Active I drove some time ago, the Car Plus Active doesn't have the rough road suspension, nor does it have the slippery driving mode. In all honesty, the only thing the Car Plus Active gets is a raised ride height, 23mm, a bit of cladding, and of course some roof rails. However, because this car's got a high ride height, the suspension does have a bit more travel to it, and the chassis has been tuned specifically for this car. And I have to say, the ride is pretty smooth. It's pretty comfortable. It can be a little bit unsettled now and then, but I've got no real concerns, and it soaks up most bumps really nicely. On the whole though, the Car Plus Active is a comfortable car, but what is it like when you show it to some corners? Now, of course, this car does ride a little higher, therefore you will spot it leans in the corners a little bit more. However, on the whole, this car is pretty good fun to chuck around. There's a good amount of grip on offer, the steering is well weighted, and thankfully the feedback isn't too muted. The brakes are good, and overall it's pretty good fun. There's not too much understeer either, so Ford has done a pretty good job with this car to keep it fun to drive. This car is definitely more enjoyable to drive than the Vauxhall Viva Rox I drove some time back, and it's also a nice place to be as well. And I'll tell you what I do quite like about this car, is it does feel like a bigger car than it actually is. There have been times where I've looked at a gap and thought, no, I can't fit through there. Then I've thought to myself, hang on a minute, I'm in a city car, of course I can fit through there.
Talking of size, how much space is there inside and how big is the boot?
Step inside the front and you'll find a decent amount of space. Granted, you do sit quite close to your front passenger, but don't forget this is a city car, therefore there are some limitations in regard to space. Speaking of limitations, as I mentioned earlier, the steering wheel only adjusts for rake and not reach. So you may find getting a good driving position takes a little longer. Thankfully, the seat has got a decent amount of adjustment, and for my 6'2" frame, I was able to get a good driving position quite quickly. Now, let's talk about practicality. The door bins are of a good size. I have a 500ml bottle of water in there with plenty of space left over. I've also got not one, not two, not three, but 4 cup holders in the middle. I know, exciting times. Ooh, which one shall I pick? I pick you. There we go. You also get a small slot down here where you could pop some loose change or some chewing gum. A shelf here where you can pop your smartphone, which is quite handy. And of course you do get a glove box, which once again offers a decent amount of space. So the front of the Ford Ka Plus is pretty practical. So far, so good. But what about space in the rear? Ford states that the Ka Plus is able to fit a 2-metre tall person behind a 2-metre tall driver. Now, in case you're wondering what that is in foot and inches, that's about 6 foot 5.5 inches. So I'm 6'2", therefore I should be just fine in the back, or will I? As always, the driver's seat has been set for me, but even so, I've got a good amount of leg room, and knee room isn't too bad either. I haven't got acres of headroom, so I think anyone larger than me would struggle and may have to slump forward a little bit. So I don't think Ford's claim about getting a 2-metre tall person behind a 2-metre tall driver is really accurate. Ford also states that the rear is big enough for 3 adults, but once again, I think that would be too much of a squeeze. In the middle seat, you've got quite a large transmission tunnel. Therefore, getting your legs comfortable will be a little bit tricky. Although headroom isn't too bad in the middle because the middle seat isn't raised too much higher. But yes, 3 adults back here? I don't think so, Ford. 3 children should be absolutely fine. And of course, you've got ISOFIX points. One of the annoying things about the previous Ford Ka Plus was the fact it had no boot release button. I know, it is a bit of a first world problem, but it was still quite irritating. Thankfully, following customer feedback, the new model does have a boot release button. There we are. Good stuff. Open the boot up and you will find 270 litres at your disposal, which isn't too far behind a Ford Fiesta. Impressive stuff indeed. It's bigger than the Vauxhall Viva Rox, the Kia Picanto X-Line and the Suzuki Ignis. Like the inside, you get a rubber mat, which means it's handy if you want to put muddy items in here, and it also gives you better durability. If you need more space, you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you 1029 litres. Sadly, the rear seats don't fold flat, but that isn't uncommon for this class.
So the Ka Plus Active is pretty practical, but how safe is it? The Ka Plus Active isn't exactly awash with safety tech, therefore it was awarded only 3 stars by Euro NCAP. Autonomous emergency braking is not standard, nor is it an option, but as standard you'll receive 6 airbags, ESP, speed limiter, and that's about it. Mind you, it's on par with the Viva Rox, but the Picanto X-Line and the Ignis offer more kit.
So safety is so-so, but how thirsty is it? Unlike the old Ford Ka Plus, the new Ford Ka Plus comes with stop-start, so when you come to a stop at traffic lights or in traffic, the engine will shut off automatically. I'm sure you're fully aware of what it is. It isn't exactly a new technology to the automotive world. However, it is new to the Ford Ka Plus, and thankfully it means it gives you better economy. On a combined run, this engine should offer 49.6 mpg, that's using the old NEDC method by the way, and in my experience I've been getting around 47 mpg, which is pretty decent, although it is worth noting that its rivals, the Vauxhall Viva Rox, the Kia Picanto X-Line and the Suzuki Ignis, they do offer slightly better fuel economy, so that's worth bearing in mind. However, that can't be said if you go for the 1.5 litre diesel, because on a combined run that is able to offer 56.5 mpg. That's using the new WLTP method by the way. In regard to emissions, this engine emits 129 grams per kilometre, meaning for the first year of VED you will be required to pay £165. The diesel engine emits 108 grams per kilometre, meaning for the first year of VED you'll also have to pay £165. Before I wrap up, let's touch upon refinement. Refinement isn't too bad given the type of car it is. Wind noise is pretty well controlled, but there is a fair amount of road noise entering the cabin from these 15-inch alloys. It is audible, but would I call it intrusive? No. And to be honest, there's never been a situation where I have felt the need to shout to have a conversation to any passengers in here. The engine is also pretty refined. When you're cruising, it works away at a hushed level, and even when you rev it, it isn't too boomy. Yes, it likes to talk a little bit, but it's never yelling at you, which is nice. The new Ford Ka Plus is a decent enough car, but I think in the active trim level it doesn't really make much sense. I can't imagine too many people rushing out to buy a city car that looks like an SUV, no matter how large their SUV craze gets. However, if you must have a city car that looks like an SUV, I would recommend the Kia Picanto X-Line because I think it's better looking, it offers better value, and because it is a Kia, it comes with a 7-year warranty. But if you must have a Ford Ka Plus, I would recommend taking a look at the Z-Tech because you get a very similar specification in regards to equipment, but of course you don't get the SUV styling, and it is a cheaper car. So for me, it is a no-brainer. The Ford Ka Plus Active then, no, I think it is pretty pointless if I'm going to be honest. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If so, give it a massive thumbs up. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click that bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. And if you aren't subscribed, guys, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe for more car obsession.